Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on UppTalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say UppTalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you are new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
And now we will start with the concepts of the dataset. What are the datasets? Here, if we see the datasets are, the definition is here that a prism object associated with raw source data or processed data. Datasets are basically a prism object associated with raw source data or processed data. Here it can be two things. Can be a file with a raw data or something which is processed already. We bifurcate datasets into two types. One is base datasets and the other one is actual. The second one is derived dataset. The base datasets are the datasets in which actual raw data is there. As we know that we are able to get the data from Workday or from the external system. If we are getting any data in a raw form, then when we do any quantification to the prism, we are creating a base dataset. And the nomenclature for creating any base dataset is we do a prefix of BDS. It is a short form of base dataset. And then we can name it BS. That's the short form of the base dataset. We name it base dataset that we are able to identify. When we create any line of datasets, in that it's very hard to identify which is the base dataset and which is the derived dataset. In order to identify it, we do a naming and we follow this naming convention. Likewise for derived datasets. Derived datasets where we create when we are using derived datasets or the base dataset. It is very much clear that for base dataset, the input file will be the raw file. By that only be able to create a base dataset, but on the other hand, derived dataset can be any raw file. Also, it can be any derived dataset. In derived dataset, it gives us leverage to do transformation modification, adjust the schemas of the data, or to filter the data, or to create calfis. Fills into it that all things takes place into the derived dataset. There can be a line of datasets followed by the derived datasets or a base dataset, and which we actually publish and which we publish, and then we are able to do the working into it. Derived dataset with the naming convention for derived dataset is DIDES, which is a yes, DDS. I hope that these two things are clear for you. Yes, are clear. Oh, we are missing, I'm saying base dataset and derived set. What is the next steps? Then generally now which one? Easy to process, or now even though in the DDS we contain both processed and non-processed data, that derived data set, this is the best basic input. Or what are these things? Data sets basically here. Yes, these are used for basically identifying. There's nothing as easy or hard. Anything but it's a creating a lineage that for the data flow. If we see any graphical representation of how the data flows, be able to understand that how the data will flow in the system. That is the working of it. It is a standard practice for a raw file, create the base data set, and for the other files, we will use the other file type, other data set type. Yes, coming forward, you will be able to easily identify what I am talking about. Now we will see it. Now we will see that what is the Dataset Workspace. Dataset Workspace is a space where all the PRISM configurations are available. Over there, all the things will be there. We will be able to find all the datasets, datasets, tables, everything will be there. That workspace is known as Data Catalog. Now let me quickly connect to my desktop connection that it will be easy for you to see and understand things. First of all, to access the data, Prism Workspace, the task is Data Catalog. One question before, if I was trying to, before the Prism, talent, how to configure these things do we need to configure to get all this data, get the data catalog or anything. Yes, for that we need to do a security configuration, which I was about to cover, but somehow my that tent wasn't responding. Because of that, I'm not able to cover it today, but what I will do is in the next session, I will take this as a first, but we are not missing anything because it's already configured and it's not stopping us with moving ahead. But still, if you want to know moving ahead, I will just first of all name your steps. What we do is we will divide the things into separate parts. What we will do is first of all, we won't be configuring data catalogs all the time, but what we will do is create it once, or we should have a knowledge about it. In that case, we create a security group, and in security, that particular security group will have the certain domains. Enable this. Moving ahead, what do is create a user-based security group. In that particular user will have the capabilities of doing the working in the background. Once we create a user-based security, in that we will assign the different domains. What do is we will go to edit domains, and the domains are nothing. Domains are the domains are Prism data. Set, create Prism Dataset, manage Prism Data Owner, manage. You don't have to do by heart. You don't know to learn by heart. You can go to community and you will find out the list of all the domains which are responsible for it. Hardly. There are 10 to 12, I guess somewhere around 10 to 12 domains which are responsible for this, for the Prism. Once you add those data set into that security group and assign a user, the tenant has been set up for the Prism working. Yes, I will be sharing the list of domains which are responsible for it. But moving ahead, it might also update, or after 1 or 2 years, it might update or reduce depending on work days. Update. But this will be the standard as of now. By that, you will be easily able to do the configurations. Sure, yes, now to access the Prism workspace, what do is we will type a task with the name of Data Catalogs. Once we click, Data Catalog will show us. It will show us the environment where the Prism is already set up. Got it. Here, just reports, we can tag the datasets with our name. Let's say I am working on a report which falls under the category of payroll. While creating it, I can name it. I can click it and I can tag it with that particular one. What happens is during our development, we tend to create lots of data set. Let's say if we are working on one single data source for a single project, we might end up creating from, let's say, around minimum 2 to 3 data set to up 10 to 15 data set. In order to filter it out in this big list where all the data sets are listed, what we do is we take them by the name of the project or by the category they are serving to. Let's say if we say by the project, it will be payroll benefit, which are the generic terms, but in payroll what? In payroll, if we are working on a project where we need to generate a salary slip or we want to send us some specific we want to send some specific things or integrate some specific things related to payroll, some specific pay components, then we can name that project and we can assign that tags to them. Then here the data set list generally automatically restrictions after some time, but if you are not able to see your data set over here, you can give refresh. Over here, by that you will be able, it will show us that last refresh. This meter go, sometimes what happens is we create it, but this page is not refreshed. You are not able to see your data over here. Apart from it, if you are not sure regard if you are not assigned your data set with any back, you can use this for search functionality. This search functionality is only for the Workday, but this search functionality is used for dataset. Let's say if I want to search a BDS with any name, I will search BDS and it will give me all the BDS with that particular name over here. Down. Currently there are no BDS available. I will type TBL. Yes, TBL are coming over here. TBLs, these are known as tables. I will cover it up. What are the table types? But this is the search functionality. This search of the work. This is for Workday and this search is for the Prism for searching the data set. On the left side, this is the data catalog. Over here, we can see that we can bifurcate the data on base of tables and data set. Now you told that we understand the concept of data set, but what are the tables? Tables are nothing. It's a static data scoring capability of the data. Let's say data set. What happens is when you create a lineage, let's say there is a data set 1, which is connected to the data set 2, and it is connected to data set 3. Let me open a lineage for a better understanding. Just a single one. This is a lineage of it. What happens is when I do modification into this data set, automatically those changes will be reflected over here. And if there is another data set, it will also send a reflection to the other data set ahead of it. But when I create a table, I give a permission when to refresh the data with it. It restricts the flow of data after a certain point why we create data set. Let's say if we are creating a demographic data or enriching the data with the current data. Let's say I have some basic demographic data of the worker and I'm pulling some from the other organization. I'm pulling the same data from my system. I want to map those data together. During those mapping, whatever I do is I will do what I will. This table won't get refresh until I asked it to refresh it. Basically, this refresh is automatically, but this doesn't refresh automatically. I need to refresh it manually that we are able to perform the action. This window which you are able to see, it's called lineage of the data. We will explain in detail later on. But this is what we are able to see. We covered the tables. Tables refreshes doesn't refresh automatically. We need to refresh it manually to avoid data conflict. Moving ahead into the lineage. The datasets are the datasets, which we bifurcate into the various categories. BDS. Then there are connections. Connections are the connections which we establish with the dataset. As I mentioned in the previous session, that we take data from the different system and merge it with us. Here the connection is from Amazon. If we click it and review it, here we can see that we have established a connection, and the connection can be of various types. Here it is using some areas with using IBR services from Amazon and getting the data, and here's the configuration of it. We can, when we want to create, first of all, when we have to get the data on a recurring basis, we create a connection and we test our connection manually first. Because we don't want that, we create a connection and it malfunctions in the end or on a recurring basis. What we do is we test the connection on recurring base. One question here. The connection, generally you are seeing the access key. The reason, somebody else created these ones. Do we need to create while setting up connections to the data source? We will provide this information. Basically, somebody has to give the key ID and which region we need to connect all this information in general. That is our responsibility, or somebody else provide that connection details. Yes, conferring the connection in Prism. It's our role that we need to mention that. What will the source of the connection, and what is the connection key, and what is the connection ID? But now to create that key ID, connection ID, and key the main person in the organization who looks after the data integration across the system. They give us this key and ID because as a Prism analyst from Workday, we don't know about AWS at all and how the configuration take place into the ADOS. They generate that key. And they generate a key and an ID on their end. And they share it with us and ask us that you can access this data using this key and this ID. Got. They will provide details. Very correct. They provide us by that only be able to access them. Yes, yes. And while sending also data, when we, let's say, we send any data to any other system, we follow this thing. We also provide to other system. This is the key and ID, but this thing is one time only who is the Workday admin or who is the data admin overall across the system looks after this one. Now this is a data change task. This here, we can see that as I mentioned that we are using various data sets and files to ingest the data on a recurring basis. Here this is a data set chance where I can run that particular connection, and I can do it manually. As here you can see that this is a source as a file and this is a data set. In something what happens is it's truncate and insert, some in terms insert. In insert, what happens is it will append the data. Let's say if there are already 10 rows available, what it will do is it will add, and we are sending another 10 and it will append. It will be 20 rows, but let's say if I said, but let's say yes, if I said it will replace it. It won't append, it will replace that existing one and copy with the new one. It completely depends on the requirement which one to move ahead with. Here we can see that yes, you have any doubt. No, the doubt is no. Can it overwrite the same data? That does it check? No, let's say our 10 tables already there. Unfortunately, again you insert the same setup for data. What will happen in that scenario? Here truncate and insert is it will replace the existing data, and insert will be it will append the data. Does it check the duplicates or anything, or there is an operation or doesn't? Its appending is, let's say, if it's 1 to 10, then from 11 onwards it will start passing. It doesn't check for duplication because we already mentioned that we are not doing that. That checking of duplication, we can do it moving ahead in our datasets, derived datasets. Your question is, there are chances that when in appends there are chances of the duplication, but it still depends on the data type. Some data types doesn't have, that data type doesn't have duplicates. Let's say if, and some will have duplicates. For an example, if there is any, if we are sending a worker data, let's say we are getting the paid data of worker. Definitely in an organization, there will be set of worker fixed. Let's say 100 employees are there. It might be plus or minus depending on hiring and termination of the worker. Obviously, it will have the same number of employees or almost the same in that. In those scenarios, there are chances of the duplication. And for that, use truncate and insert to over the duplication. On the other hand, if the file only gets, if let's say we are creating a set of pay groups. For pay groups, we are creating new pay groups. And that comes, there are no chance of creating duplication. In that term, we will use insert. Also, we use this truncated insert. That insert functionality where all data gets appended when we want the historical data. Here, what happens is, let's say if there is a column with there's an employee and there's a date that payroll for the month of January, and there's another same employee with payroll as it with pay for the February month. By that we can bifurcate the data and we can do some working on it based upon the month they have received their payroll. Ideally, it's not a duplication. Yes, the number of employees are same. I mean the employee is getting repeated, but the entries, the row entries are of different months. That case. Here, as I've shown you, we can use the different sources, data sets and files on a regular basis. It will do it. Here, the symbol is for report. If you want to use any report for getting the data, then we can also do that. There are majorly three methods. One is the getting files from SFTP. SFTP will get the file and it will upload the data, or else we can upload a file, existing Excel file, and we can upload it. And we can create a data set, or we can push the data on a regular basis to a data set. Secondly is to transfer the data from one data set to another one. And the third one is to get the data from a report and transfer data from the Workday report to the PM. One question now. We are seeing sources, only files and data sets. I'm not seeing table. Table is not the source in general. Yes, generally tables are not the sources here. Sources, it will be there, but it won't be a change task. It will be in a lineage available. Basically, this is a data change task. Here we are, yes, it will only update the data. There is no table available over here. It will be in the data sets only here in table 1. No, yes, this is for sources are made. When we create a table as it will. We can configure it over here as we can do it, but here it's not available. It's not available here, but we can do it for the table as that is the thing. Then the other thing, Workday what kind of reports now is different type of reports. All the reports, we can get it here and you process or only certain kind of reports. Let's example custom reports or some standard reports or something. There are different types of reports in Workday. If I say on a macro level there are standard reports and custom reports, and in standard reports there are two types, Espresso and Report Writer. For Espresso, custom report, either all the standard reports we can't use for this one for Prism, but in custom report there are two reports which we can use. One is advanced report and the second one is metrics and search report, as that we can use it in ingesting it into the Prism. To enable it, we use the RAS functionality report as a service. RAS, when we enable that, not automatically when we create a report, it won't show directly into the Prism. But when we create it, there's an option. When you go to advanced option, it will show us that enable as a web service. When we enable as a web service, then there's another option, enable for PRISM. When we tick this both things, then be able to see that report in this Prism, that these reports are available, which we can pull it and use it for our fun working. One more question. No, I heard, but we can bring it. We can bring it about here or not. But for now, I don't think there's any functionality, but we can bring it for now. But still, I will check for the but, because this is also a Prism is used for the BI functionality only. We can do a thing that we can use the bars extract and in a file format, let's say in a CSV or any format, and then use that data, ingest it into the Workday, and then do some visualization out of it. But there's no any functionality to use the BIOS from directly to the Prism. Just I was going over, I was looking sure. Here, if we see that we covered the data set, let me see the next topic. Yes, we discussed the data sets. What are the data sets? We discussed the tables. We discussed because the dataset workspace is a data catalog, and data catalog is a workspace of datasets where you can find all the dataset and dataset schemas. There are base datasets and derived datasets, and dataset schema changes we saw that we are able to find the changes. The data things task we discussed about. Now we will discuss about published dataset. Published dataset are nothing, but they are same as the derived datasets only, but they are published. How to see it? Let me check if there's any available dataset in the tenant. They are dataset. You can see here that published successfully. What does this mean, published successfully? When the derived data set is published, it means that it is available in terms of Prism data source into the Workday. You remember we discussed about that we create a custom data source into the Workday. This data source acts as a Prism data source. If I open this data set as a view, these are the fields which were used in this report. And when I go to the activities, I'm able to see that this report was published by who? The person name will show up here. How much time does it take when it was published? And how much rows we are publishing to it. In some matter, it also get fails. It will show us when there are recurring publishing happening on a frequency. It will show me multiple lines on that frequency. And here that particular user or ISU name will be there. Integrated system user will be responsible for it. If I copy the name, Let me copy the name. This data source will be able to search it into the Workday if I go to BO and here, external data business object. Here you can see we have created this business object as a data source. Out of it here, if you see the data source, we have created data source with this name, and here this digit also conveys the same name to the as a primary business object. By that here 41 fields are there, and if you see means but one fields came where it no greater this fields. Sorry, got your question. The 41 fields we are seeing to integrate somebody has created manually or how the fields came here. Those 40-volt fields are the one which we created in this prisms. If you see field 41, the fields which we created in 41 over here, those fields only will reflect here. It might be more than this, not less than 4, because while working, this is now available into the Workday. This report is now available into the Workday. Now we will be able to work into the Workday with this data set. I will also create some calculations. Let's say if this date field is there and I want to only get some particular date thing, then I can create a calculate out of it and do the working. In that case, I will create a calculated field into the Workday, not in the Prism. This 41 field, if I say it comes from here, and if we see the data source, it can be more than 41, but not less than 41. Got it. While creating, we know I want to create a red. Any roads or confusion over here in this data source or business object. A little confusion here. Basically, you can ask. Basically, we created this data set and it has some certain steps involved. How these 41 fields came from, where, how did we get this information? What are the steps basically to create it? These fields, this while creating data set we create, these fields are now how do we know what is the field type? It's all those things. This maybe we see that business objects or something is there. This creation, what field is there? What data type? Is there that when we create a data set in that, there is a managed field. By default, when we ingest the data, what Workday does is Workday automatically identifies it on its end that what kind of data type it is. If the data is into date format, and it will automatically show us that this data is into this date format, but when the data but sometimes it happens that Workday is not able to correctly identify the data type. In that case, we can manually change the data type as per our need. Let's say if we have created a date, the date and time type date time, then it will show in field type as date. Then if it's a single instance, then it will show a single instance. Text is text. And true or false condition is there. Then it will become as Boolean. We don't need to do into Workday. When it gets published, it will automatically translate the things into the Workday format when we publish a Prism data set into the Prism. Generally, the data, the fields might be more than you mentioned. Let's say hundreds of things are then what is the minimum size in data sets in general in the real-time scenarios? How much is it? Field it can process, that's as of now, there's no such hard limitation because we haven't come across any such scenario where we're overburdening it. But there are some limitation for the on the report end when we create a report it has. Some limitation up to 100 fields, but still 100 is a limit. But if we create more than 40 or 50 fields, The report will take too much time, but in terms of this, we can create. From my experience, I've created a 150 plus a non-150 fields into it, and we haven't found any issue in it. Yes, but there is a limit. On the data uploading file, let's say I want to upload a file into this Workday, then that external file, and that file shouldn't be more than a 50 GB. It might update in this coming release, but it shouldn't be more than 50 GB of it, maximum. Up to 50 GB, yes, it's maximum, up to it, we can do it. But ideally, those such limits doesn't reach. But still, this is a good thing to know about. Any other doubts regarding this understanding, lineage, or tables? I'll go over again. I need to try this all this time, but far I'm good. I can move forward. Yes, and lineage is nothing. If you are able to see this thing into the lineage, let me close this. Yes, see, all these data sets are there. They are available in the data catalog. If I go to the data catalog, dataset, this all field datasets are available over here. But here in the lineage, we are able to see how they are connected. Here I can see that this derived dataset is there. It is taking data from this table. It is coming over here. This dataset is from here. It is coming from here and it is merging over here. If I open this, if I go to edit transformation, and then I can see that there will be a union or a joint of it. Here you can see there are different stages. One is import, and then we can see a join. Now these two things are joined together for the next step. Yes, this all configuration we will be doing it. Now we will start with that creation of the data set. To create a data set, first of all, the option is to create over here. It will ask us what to create. You can see for base data set, we are getting this many. Options table derived data set, base data set, it is giving us three options from file or custom. Report, we discussed three types. These are three types and these are the connections. Sorry, I didn't got a question. Do not use sepia. No, it might be some. There might be some. Yes, there might be. There's a new update coming in. They might be doing some update, because of that it's written. But anyways, you can go ahead and use it. What happens is sometimes they are updating, working on that particular task. It names that do not use, but we can definitely go ahead and use it. It's do not use in terms of do not use in production for the thing, because it's a sign that this particular thing is under deprecation or under development. And if there are chances that it malfunctions, you can use it for the testing, but not on a thing. But once the update release, it might go away. Now we see that we can create by 3 digital option. Let me check for any report which is available. What I will do is I will use the existing one if there is any report available in this. If you can see here, in order to get a report from for a working, here we can see that this report is created. It's an advanced report type. And we go to this advanced option. Here you can see it is enabled as a web service. And when you enable this, the web service API version automatically picks it up. And apart from it, there's an option to take mark enable for Prism. Once you do this, two things then, and then you will be able to see this particular table over there. In order to create this, copy the name of this copy text and here, data catalog create from custom report. Yes, here it will ask for the report. We'll paste the report name and it will be report criteria. When report criteria prompts up, let's say if in my report I have entered some prompts there, or some prompts which are prompting and which are here do not prompt is no, or it will blank. In that case, ask that if you want to run this report, on what criteria should you run? Here, what the report creator, the report writer person has done is he has selected the default values that for dimension type he has selected ledger account, and for the last option include dimension hierarchy he has mentioned yes. And then he has mentioned the do not prompt. Do not prompt automatically conveys that to use the default as it is. But if in case this do not prompt is not done as yes, but it's a blank, in that case we need to give a report criteria over here. It's nothing, just to see that what criteria on which criteria. Should it run on? Any doubt till here in this? The report criteria I do not have, but really the only question we are talking. The existing report to this report and whatever the default it has now, let's say all. This is a prompt. Is there saying yes? No. I mean, as is done if we required a prompt, now we need to change their report type. Do we change there or where exactly we are going to change that one just in case copy? I didn't got the last one. For what? Copying what we copied, that existing one and changing it. If we would go side, there is a do not prompt to run. Head run type is a yes. And then if we change to no, then what will happen? Let's say dimension. Type is there, and if it is no, let's say if it's no, then we will be able to see that that particular thing same as it is over here, this particular row refreshed. A set particular row of dimension, type this one. Here you can see prompt default values. The same line will come here. The same line will come here and here. We need to mention any value here we have mentioned here. If we have mentioned this, a ledger account as a default value, then here also we need to mention the default value. Yes, see here the fill type will come as a dimension type, value type will come, and then value will be the one which we have named it analyze. If you want to change the name of it, we will. We will also means dig in detail when we will be creating a full-fledged dataset. This is just an understanding how the creation of report dataset, where BDS based dataset takes place when we do it with the report. Now there is an option with the restriction of the environment. Here we can configure the restriction based off on different environments. Let's say I want to get this report there and it should be limited to implementation tenant only. It will stay in that it will only fetch the report when this data set in it is in implementation tenant and not in the other tenant. But let's say if I give in sandbox and it will only pull this report in sandbox and not other tenants. Basically, we are restricting it to on usage that on which tenant it should be used in. It might be due to some testing reason or it might be due to some security reason. These are the reason we were restricted. In this case now, let's say I want to give the access in production or somewhere. Here we can see if we see the URL, it's an IMPL. It's an implementation tenant. We need to take mark on implementation tenant and remove the other ones. But this is solely depend on the requirement. Sometimes what happens is organization. What they do is that they'll everything and they'll restrict it to sandbox and implementation tenant. It's up to the requirement in which thing we want to restrict it to. But ideally, we should be restricting to the tenant which we are working in here. If we see it's an implementation tenant, we're sticking to implementation tenant. If it's sandbox, then do it for sandbox. These are the default configuration, but if organization says that no, do it for both then. Do it for both, somebody else they have to. Yes, it's for the process that what process that company follows. Always in Workday, what happens is there are some standard process or standard steps defined by the Workday people. That here, when we create this base dataset, it is not necessary to name the base dataset as BDS as a prefix and thus the name of that dataset. But for what Workday does is, Workday tells us that it's good to name that dataset as a BDS in prefix that you can easily identify it. If I don't prefix as BDS, then also that dataset will be created. But it's for my reference that it will be easy for me. These are the standard working protocols which Workday suggests us. This option is there and this is no. When I run now, it will get the data and it will show us which fields are there. Here you can see that data set. We have to name the data set name. Here if I type the dataset PDS test report in session, it will automatically take the API name. API name is if we create a data set name once and if once I click then I won't be able to change the API name. I will be able to change the dataset name, but API are unique APIs. Here if you can see API name can't be changed once assigned. The reason behind is that once we create a dataset names cannot be duplicate, but it can be near to duplicate. But AP they keep in mind that it shouldn't be duplicate. Why? Because let's say when someone is doing an integration or pulling the data using that API, then if they are the API is not unique. There are chances that the API might get confused and it might pull both of them or may not pull any of the dataset. Let's say two datasets are there, which is BDS underscore test underscore worker. It will get confused which one to pick. That's why it is important to have a unique API name. Here you can see that the dataset update mode, replace or append. When we give replace, it will replace it. And when we append, it will append the data. Here we will click option of replace. Then we click here dataset is completed and all data. BDS, you can see the type is base dataset, Workday report. For table, it will come table and this. When suite, and this is the symbol, the grid symbol is for date table and this symbol is for data set. It is easy for us to identify. This is BDS and this is the DDA derived data sets where the arrow is there. You can see this and the data set, and data sets are almost same, but data sets has arrow are able to identify apart from the icons that I please also mentioned over here. And the modification date, you can identify which one you are referring to. This we created 1 minute ago. And now we click and read this and view. Here, if we refer this report, we are able to see 3 rows. 3 rows are there. Basically, 3 columns will be there. If I go to this report which I've created, I can see this 3 plus 2 additional columns will be made when I do the report. These are the WPL load items. If we see over here, if I go this here, I can see all the columns, this option. And if I click this is a table view and this is a list view. When I give list view, it will give me this output. What is this? This is workload, Workday's unique IDs. For this particular data type, this is our unique ID, which Workday generates, and this is the time of the load, at which time this load was being pulled off. You can see the date at the time is the date is 29 and the time zone in which this tenant is set up. Currently, the time zone I am working in East and you are working into East time zone, but let's say your tenant is into Est time zone, then the timing here will show off the Est only, that for this particular time this data set was this ingested. Moving ahead, it is only required just to pick the unique data. As I mentioned, you remember I told you replace and append. When you append the data, both values will be different. This load time will be different. Here, if 20 date is there and we'll load it again tomorrow and the data will change to tomorrow's date. Got. When we create a data set, what we can do is we can here when we click on this side, we get this is the action button. We can view the data set. We can view the lineage of it. That how many data sets are derived from it or where it is taking, what is the source of it, edit it and share it. We can share it with the how many people we want to share it. It depends on us, but that particular person should also have that security to see that data. When we view it, we can view that. This is a sample. This is a sample view here. Only some particular rows will come over here. There will be a limit of certain of 100 or a 500 something. We can only see that only those samples only. Not all data will be visible. Here you can see sample 20,000 rows are there. Let's say if the data is more than 20,000, it won't show over here. But up to 20,000, it will show us over here. First Lonzin. What it will do is it will pick the first 20,000, random 20,000 with the pick and will sort it in ascending orders. If you want to change the layout, I can do it later on and this is a detailed view of it, table view of it, that what other fields are coming under what column. But if I want to see the unit, the type of values, if I click on this is dimensioned. I can see the additional data. These are the top values. If I can see 6010 is coming for the entries. For one time, this is coming. For one time, this is coming. For one time, if it is coming for more than one time, it will go. It will show us 2 there. You can see that sub 1 and it will also show the percentage that with rest of them. How? Much percentage. It is coming 20% more in compared to the other ones. It will also show. Me, how many null values are there? As I mentioned in Work in Prism, if there is no data, then the value won't be blank. It will show us null. Here you can see there is no null value. Likewise, it's a macro level picture that how, what are the data types available and what's the count of it. Here you can see here, I mentioned you regarding. But here you can see that this corporate hour is coming 2, 3, 5 times, which is 9% of the total number of rows. And there are 19 nulls into it. This is the BDS to how we can create a BDS out of a report. We are about to reach the limit of the timing of the session. End up over here. But from the next session, I guess you have sent an email to the support team regarding your offs. Monday to Wednesday. I'll be back on Thursday. From Thursday onwards, I will in advance. Only I will configure the tenant that we can cover the secure, the setup 10 in part, which we were not able to cover it up due to some technical issue. Do that, and after that continue with this one. The data set part got it. For my get up to the speed or knowledge, what should I do next 3 days? Just if I get a time or some time. What is now? What should I do? Yes, what you can do is you can go to the data catalog. You can log into the data catalog and explore different options. On this left side, you can explore this all option and see what kind of content is available. You can do this thing, but from it you can do is you can open different these data sets and see in view how it shows in view lineage, what it shows in edit transformation, what it shows. You can see on what things you are able to see, and you can explore different creation of it. This is a demo tenant. It is possible that many people have done their working. You can see that 435 data sets are available. Data set tables these are the data steps. If you see all data, then 662.1, the tables and data sets are available in this particular results. In explore and see what play with it. See, and once we start with after we complete the introduction of the data sets, how they're created and how the VDS and DDS are created, we can move ahead with the task. I will then start giving you the task to build up from the scratch. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@therightuptalk.com.